morning. Happy new moon in Gemini. This energy, this is not what I thought that this moon would bring at all. And it makes me think about Jupiter moving into Gemini and how quickly things change this time of year. Like, I'm always in sort of a creative hibernation through the winter months, or I'm just in a different mode, and then things just start happening in a very different way. It's a different movement of energy, thinking about elementals and stuff. And so creatively and socially, for me, socially definitely, creatively definitely, my like new pathways start to open up. But what I have not, for the past 3 weeks, but really like the past like 5-ish days, 5 to 10 days, but 3 weeks, there's like loose ranges here. It feels like my biggest challenge has been with the way that the energy is changing and where we're at, is bringing a new embodiment that has been developed and cultivated in hermit energy. I was talking about this months ago, where it was like, if you don't think that you can go out with your energy protected and like stay in your alignment, then don't, stay in hermit mode and continue to tend to that garden, because it's a quote unquote, unforgiving time to be moving in paths that are not aligned, because anything that's not in alignment basically equates self-sabotage on some level right now. But that was like months ago, and I was talking about feeling like there was this level of mastery. I was thinking that it was like a smaller portion of people who would ever see that video, around like, if you're not ready, that's fine. The rest of the message was saying, it feels like we're in this really protected space. Everybody energetically on their own island. We're able to do walk two worlds type of thing, and be in our, whatever they involve, our 3D lives with the people, the faces, the places, but we come from a connected place with the interior conversation, right? It's a vertical alignment where we've cleared out the ability to have that connection constantly, regardless of being out and interacting with other people if they don't, or just the world today in the way that the world is. So I've been struggling with like honoring, because now the energies have increased. So that was then, this is now. It's like there's a new level of being able to strengthen, protect, and honor that connection no matter what settings you're in. And the themes of the challenges, and I saw like barbed wire, like the specific spurs are gonna have to do with your personal karma and like what it is that you need to release. For me, it has to do with allowing myself to be different than I have been before, bringing new embodiments into like similar spaces. But also there's something about that where when you behave different in a same old space, that space is different. And so there's something tandem happening around, like, you may choose to be in different spaces and around different people than you used to because you're in a different energy, or you might be in those same spaces and that same energy in a different way. And sometimes that can be really hard. I see like reeds of shallow marshland, like bending a broken reed. It can be hard to feel like it makes me think of the How I Met Your Mother, like Marshall calls it revertigo, like, or braces again with retainers, like you revert back to ways of being. Like if you see a bunch of people that you knew when you were a child all at the same time, or in high school or something. So it's like an opportunity, really. Like, I haven't felt the most comfortable during the past few weeks, and my inclination when I'm like, it's because I'm around too many people. I don't have my alone time. I'm always saying stuff like that. But I don't want to have to be the way that I used to be 6 years ago or 8 years ago around, if it's spiritual, it can't be social. Unfortunately, I think a lot of sensitive people end up in that, at least for a little bit, because it feels safer. And I don't want to, it's like the energy's allowing us to start to master how we can strengthen even more. I know the reed that was broken in the marshland, the vision is like, it's like standing back up. So there's a different layer of spiritual resiliency that we're being called to acknowledge right now. And not just acknowledge it at a superficial level, but do the untwisting of like, what is this connected to, you know? I feel like I always sort of go with the flow within my own life. I've learned to like hold my manifestations with positive expectation and detachment and love, because I know that wherever I'm led is either on the way to that or something better. So when I have hiccups along that process that I've, you know, oiled and smoothed for so many years, that's how I live my life, and I trust it, and it's the most magical way to live, because you're always sticking to that higher timeline of not controlling. I was not the one that was honked at, just so everybody knows. Look at this cute little Buddha. It's you, Mutt. He's so zen. So the reflections, though, like actually getting into the narrative. Sometimes it's not necessary with healing. Sometimes we can just not need to trace the root all the way down. But for something like this, also we had something that's called the planetary alignment on Tuesday. Really cool. Having 6 planets. I'm not gonna be able to name them all. Neptune, Uranus, Mars, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter were visible in like something of a line, a procession in the sky. It's very interesting. Like things are aligning, moving forward in this orderly fashion. And yet, at the 3D level, it might feel like somebody putting, you know, a fork in spaghetti. The narrative component, though, is like what we need for the ego mind, the self, tracing our identities back through how we've been and who we are, and being able to sort that out. So I feel like a lot of people who have been in a space of self-aware reflection for the purpose of healing and integration for a long time don't have to spend so much time in that workshop, because the more you do that, the less resistance you have to it and the quicker it comes to you. And so for me, these integrations are like, they sting a little bit, but there's no reason for that, because really it's the choice of plugging into something that's not as beneficial as my other choices could be, because we have to always re-inject option. The illusion of being stuck in certain patterns and stuff, regardless of how many times you see yourself do it, is also what needs to be set free. And so reminding yourself that just because something, if you are witnessing your own, whatever it may be, or the patterns within the world right now, or within other people, you have to continue going back to the idea that there are infinite potentials for how things could be going, and pick a new one, and then allow for that to ripple out without trying to control things too much. So those are my reflections from the new moon. And something else, it was last night, and I was sort of like free channeling for myself to process the energy on like what's been happening. And I was thinking about these different, just how I've been during different spiritual peaks throughout my life, or times of intensity over the years, how it's made me, I also saw this crucial split point. It's not really, it doesn't have strong enough legs to take me this way, but it's almost like, wow, I really could, if I wanted to, just keep doing the same loop of karma, and we don't want that. But to be able to see it and choose different again is important. But looking at these different chapters, and I said out loud, I was like, it's like a hall of mirrors. But I was channeling, and so I was waiting. I usually see visions and then I get the words. But I said that, and then I saw a hall of mirrors, and I was like, that's not, the energy of that vision is not correct. It's the way that those words sound. And then I was thinking of Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson, but my guides were saying, no, the Hall of Mirrors. It's a song, look it up. And so I Googled it, and it's like, I've never heard this song. I haven't even listened to it. I just connected with the lyrics last night to read through them. But I'm like, yeah, interesting. It's like succumbing to fear, feeling like there's no other option in this world of darkness, because this is a pretty dark world. And that's not true. It's not the only option. And so like a lot, like in the name of artistry, a lot of people glorify what it is they see with their depth, you know, and their experience and their wisdom, but it's not using the yin yang, like the creative potential of the quantum pancake, flipping it to create the extreme in another regard. A lot of self-indulgent suffering. I guess. This song, it was fascinating to me. I probably should listen to it. I'll put it on for the rest of my work commute this morning. I'm a little afraid because I don't think it's the kind of music that I like to listen to, and I don't want to listen to it, but I'm going to listen to it. So that was funny because, like, it's a, you know, a message around there's nothing to fear. This is like, there's so many different, another vision I got last night was this crumpling origami thing where it's like, that's okay. You know, if you just unfold it a little bit, it'll fold back up. This is an unstoppable path of change right now. Your willingness to just, like, you know, not be perfect, but be as you are is what's going to automate this, like, little origami thing. Last night it was almost like a praying mantis, this like structure, this creature, and then it would like unfold and rebuild itself. That's something that I think people will, at that point in the process, a lot of people will put on the brakes and say, like, I've already been here, I'm frustrated, right? It's when, like, we feel this sense of exhaustion. But what frees you of that is remembering that as you know, there's no time to this process either. It's not about, like, we just get the pressures from the external around, like, I have to do this, you know, or this feeling of pressure. It comes from fear, which is the root of anything that's not based in love. But it's specific fear around, like, our expectation. If this then that, these correlations that we don't realize we have ascribed personally, because a lot of them are almost rooted in our larger frameworks of how we just, you know, have to abide by the laws of time and everything. But you're creating when you're allowing for yourself to just always be, regardless of where you are, you're always in the right place. You're always experiencing the right unfolding and reconstruction. And it's the stuff within the mind, like the narratives that aren't about self-awareness and healing. They're the ones that your ego feeds you when you're processing emotions, and they would look an awful lot like the same ego narratives that you had at different points in time when you were trying to clear similar stuff. I've had so much material to study when it comes to that, like the dramas of the ego mind, because I'm a journaler, so I know exactly how I felt and how I thought 10 years ago. I wrote all the time, chronicling what I thought to be like the deepest pits of my struggle. And it's interesting to be able to relate to the exact same feelings, but know that that's not, you know, not a deep pit at all, and to have the bigger perspective. I was also reflecting on being a high vibrational person, or actually being, like, pretty deep into certain levels of awakening, but not nearly having magnetized or connected with people who I could share in that with, who I felt like were on my level and also involved in their own journey in a similar way. And even times of, like, super high contrast of being in what just awful places, like hell on earth type places, like this lyrics of this song, The Hall of Mirrors, or Hall of Mirrors. It's by Distillers, or The Distillers or something. But realizing, seeing certain things from my own journey and how I see the world, and then being around people or in places or doing things that were like the opposite of that, because I absolutely had no idea how to handle and engage and create a life. Everything for me was just in the 5D completely, right? But if you've been a person like that, who's been in this space, seeing into these spaces for a long time, you've always been building, I have always been building infrastructure powered by belief. We charge things equally, whether they're the way we sustain systems and things in the 3D, or within that private connection that your soul grants you access to. And another thing that I've been struggling with during this recent transit is that I have a hard time being around other people. It's like there's only two modes of being. This 3D way of being that I used to be, or I have to, it's like I'm struggling to properly allow, you just have to accept where other people are at and let their journey take them. And it's been feeling at certain points like mutually exclusive for me. I want to be able to be myself and be honest and, like, share in the things that I talk about, but it was almost like at a couple certain points at a certain recent thing, like hard for me to have just an open, honest conversation about anything, even just random stuff that doesn't really matter, not a deep conversation. But when you interact with people, it's like your belief system is the underpinning of everything that you say. And I was finding myself having a hard time talking about different things with people who don't, they're not spiritual, and they don't, I feel as if a lot of people, when they start to hear where it is that you're coming from, without fully hearing you out, they will assume what it is that you believe in. And then I've been shedding and will continue to shed. I don't know what else to call it. I don't think it's right to call it PTSD, because it's a tiny nutshell of a CPTSD thing, because it's this subtle microaggression that I have faced at so many points in my life, where it's almost like I'm an artist. I speak about the reasons why I make the artwork. But for a while, it was like people were like, we just want you to shut up, though. The art's good. You're talented. Keep doing that. That's cool. But don't, like, the things that you say. And it wasn't like people were saying that to me. Sometimes I did get something like that, and it was like really mean to shut me down. But in other times, it's not that people say that. If they want you to, if how you're being doesn't align with somebody's expectation or version of reality, they try to make it. And what that means is that they could be bringing in auxiliary, things of their ego. Again, with this, like, this hall of mirrors thing, it's like that's what the ego does. It's very crafty. And so we exist with it, we understand ourselves, but we also allow it to just deconstruct and reconstruct with less of these blind spots. All right, that's all my messaging for this morning. I'm gonna do the thing that I do on occasion, where I talk too much too early in the morning and lose my people skills. So I'm gonna go listen to that dark and angry melody and hope that everybody has a good day. The last thing I'll say is that it's a time and a season of, like, having fun, being out in nature, and, like, having fun and allowing your energy to be in, like, a space where you're not distracted by other stuff. Like, just allowing yourself to forget for a little bit whatever it is, whatever you're dealing with in your life, in order, like, doing a hobby, like painting or singing or going outside, like, all of those things, to interrupt and allow yourself to enjoy it. For me, there's this big social aspect to that. And so this intensity, like having the both and, something that feels like deeply personal, and I'm like processing a lot, but wanting to not put that part away, right? Because both can exist now. It just requires a different level. We're at the higher rung of the twisty. We always will be, if you choose to keep moving in that direction, right? And, like, opening yourself to the ascension. I think a lot of people do shut themselves off, right? Or convince themselves out of their own spiritualness when they reach certain levels. And I definitely did this. I've shut myself down. This is why, I don't know, I'm gonna write a book one day. For some reason, right, there would be times when I was very illuminated and open, and then something would happen and I was like, I can't live this way, or it's not safe to be this way, or, we have to just allow for the lessons to be what they've been, but not let them understand that that's why they happened, right? Not let them keep us from doing things differently. And, like, it's just so hard. This is why the channel is called Wordsmith of the Imperial. These words, like, sometimes I hear them coming out of my mouth and I'm like, it's not enough. I simply am not talking about it properly, because it's like, when we don't even know that certain things are possible, even in the way that we can highly conceptualize of these, like, metaphors and analogies, and, like, there's a resonance that happens when we talk about things spiritually where you don't need words. But it would be nice if we could just kind of have some, or, like, try a little bit. That's my opinion. And even then, like, there's new levels of things that are happening, and this is, like, it's so funny too. It's like, oh, we've been on such a long journey, yada yada. It's not even, like, it's so crazily at the beginning that it's mind-boggling. That was just the you know, the prologue type deal. Just to be able to like reach new levels where you've never experienced the way that you feel before, or you're having big openings of the way that your physical eyes or your third eye or your crown chakra is receiving stuff. It's a completely different way of being, and it starts on the interior. But when you sustain those things, right, like as within, so without. So it's an intense time. And I have moss agate on me, howlite. I was very moved to take moss agate and howlite. I take different crystals with me to work or wherever I'm going every day, just because the energy is different every day. Moss agate is good for soothing of the systems, like, and then the howlite as well, like just connecting with the truth and feeling like my body and my mind are able, these two stones in my pockets, right, they're providing an outside tether to the energy that I want to be rooted in. They're tools. They're helping me connect to where I need to connect today in order to not abandon my truth, right? With all this little, I'm just seeing like leaves on trees moving in the wind. Okay, that's it. Hope everybody's doing good. Okay, update, because I listened to the song. I really like it. It's really good. It's my new favorite song. Just wanted to finish with that.